I'm going to remove the S port resistor first, and that's only because if you don't have the parts for the mod, you can literally just open up the radio, remove, let me see if I can point at it with something. Remove this resistor right here. I'm gonna somehow post pictures later, but remove this resistor and then just assemble your radio, and you can use Ghost and you can use Crossfire at the maximum baud rate. And that's all you got to do. And I use it like that for a month. It works fine as long as you charge your remote every time, which is kind of not as big of a deal since you can just plug it into USB. It's not like the X-Lite where you have to pull out the batteries every time. That would suck. But I'm saying that because I had the X-Lite. I really like the X-Lite, but pulling the batteries to charge would have been a huge pain in the butt if it had this kind of like battery life. I guess I'll just run what I'm going to do first. So I'm going to remove the S port resistor first. Then I'm going to rotate the battery sense resistor. So that's this on the picture, and that's that resistor right there. I'm going to rotate it that way. And then I'm going to remove the unnecessary fets. I'm not sure what they're supposed to do, but I'm going to remove this one and that one. I'm just basically running down what the actual Google Doc does. And then, or my interpretation, I might be wrong. Cut the power trace. So that's this right here, which is this right here. And I'm not sure how well that's going to show up. Let me try to zoom in and tilt a little bit. Yeah, this is not great. Tilt, or just move it. Yeah, I'm just gonna move this up. All right, so let's remove that S port. So yeah, that was the last thing to do, is just cut this trace. Can you see it? Yeah. Cut this about here so that you miss the two vias. There's two little dimples. You want to cut above those and below the little trace that goes to this resistor. But let's get on with it. I found the best way to remove the S port resistor was just to use some solder and kind of like overflow it with solder, and then just it will wick. It'll actually wick up onto the soldering iron itself. Actually, what should I do first? Let's see. Let's get it full of solder first. That way it'll have some solder on it already. Let's see if I can. And then I grab it with this and separate it out. I'm going to separate it up since there's nothing. There we are. Let's see if I can get it off. I don't know how I'm going to rotate that other resistor. Let's see. And there. That was a little trickier than I was hoping. But that's the resistor upside down. Let's see. I have to hold it. Yeah, that's the resistor. And I'll just lose it. Oh, there it is. Oh, I'll just put it right there. And so that's all you really got to do to get decent communication. And then just gonna clean it up. Can't see any flux coming out. I have really loud neighbors, actually. I don't know if that's gonna come through. Let's see. Yeah, probably do one pad at a time. That's clean enough. It was like that. And then I rotated it like this. So this is the resistor I took off that became blurry at the end. And this is the resistor that I took off as well. And then I put it back on because it was just a horrible blurry mess. So I'm going to try it again, which it might be easier, but I mean, it's better to show a better way than not to be able to see anything because it's blurry. So I think the best way is actually to act like you're just going to sacrifice the poor little resistor and just put a gob load and then just boom. I mean, if you have like, oh shit, you didn't even see. Where is it? I have no idea. Oh yeah, I did it under. But basically, I just took the whole gob that you saw and I just tapped it down on my table onto there. I mean, whoa. Yeah. Because now I'm just going to clean my soldering iron and try to fish the resistor out of this freaking solder ball. Like that. I mean, can you even see anything? It was down here. Yeah, that's it right there. With some hot air you could do it, but I feel like being a really expensive remote, or I don't know, not really expensive, but yeah, it's decently expensive. I don't want to like apply a whole bunch of heat to that. I'd rather have like inaccurate voltage, since this is the only resistor that we're gonna have to put back. I mean, have an accurate voltage and then possibly just replace it with a oh, actually, I'm not going to use this resistor anymore. I mean this end. I'm going to use a tighter end. But yeah, you can just replace it with a through-hole resistor. Just the same. And I don't know what the value of it is, but I'm sure it's somewhere on the internet. Maybe I'll put it in a comment. But I'm going to switch over to the TC1. No, TSC1 tip. And I'm going to take this resistor and basically just clean up one of the ends. I don't know how you're supposed to hold this. I'm just gonna hold it in my fingers and put a little bit of flux. Wash your hands, kids. Don't just stick lead into your mouth. Yeah, I think the best option here would just be to buy the through hole component. That's the same thing. That's the same value as this resistor. And then I'm just gonna touch it on the side that's not facing the board. So I'm having, oh man, you can't even see. Maybe if you can just barely see that it's got the white side up. And so I'm gonna pull the solder to the black side so it's out of the way for soldering. Just like that. So I just melted it slightly and made it point away from the board. I don't know if that's strictly, fuck, I almost burned myself. Alright, so let's bring this back in and we're going to install. I'm gonna drop that for a second. I'm just gonna clean it up a little. Going to install this resistor again. Nothing much is coming off. Oh shoot, did I just brush the resistor? No. Alright, I'm gonna try to do it this way just because I had it starting up that way. But we're gonna make it so that this bottom pad of that was originally used for the resistor, that's gonna stay free. Bottom, so the SD card pad, like the side that's the pad that's closer to the SD card, is gonna stay free. And then the resistor is actually going to go onto the pad that is closest to the headphone jack and USB port. Flip it over. Kind of. Oh well. One thing that helps here is having flux on the board. Makes it so that the resistor doesn't slide around so erratically, and you can actually just put it into place. And then what's worked for me so far is just putting heat in the vicinity. Okay, so there's a resistor. Putting heat in the vicinity of the pad with a little bit of solder. A little bit more solder. That's not what I want. I want just a little bit of solder on the tip. And it's not wanting to give me that. I'm just gonna, but it's not even visible the amount of solder I have out here, because the pad already has some solder from when I removed the resistor. So I'm just gonna come back in and tap the resistor, and it gets sucked down onto the pad. I am gonna straighten it out a little though. Can you see what I'm doing? I think I need more solder and flux. Alright, let's try it with a lot more solder. Alright, so just keep it away from the other components. Yeah, I gave up. I tried it for like 5 minutes and I couldn't get it to go exactly 90 degrees. So I'm just gonna leave it at that, and I'm gonna call it right now that was probably the hardest part of this mod. Let's see if I can prove myself wrong. Alright, so we got the S port resistor off. We rotated the battery sense resistor, possibly damaging it in the process. Now I'm gonna remove the unnecessary fets, and that I practiced, so it should be easy. Let's see. I guess I'll keep doing it in the same orientation as before because you get better resolution that way. And maybe I'll just put it up here so it's not recording so much of my legs. Put it right in the middle of the frame. Just the lighting for it to reduce the glare. Now I'm getting shadows. I don't know what I'm fucking doing. Okay. Let's zoom in a little bit. Alright, let's see if I can do it in this orientation. So, it's this transistor and that transistor right next to those, like JST. This is the back of the JST connectors. So, the way I think it should work is to use some really sharp diagonal cutters. I can hardly tell. But these are new. I haven't used them for anything, because these things die on you. I buy them by the box because I break them all the time. So let's make sure it's focused. So I'm just gonna cut the top pin of the transistor and try to cut it as close to the actual plastic as possible so that I don't damage so much of the trace. And then I'm just gonna test to see if I cut it or not by trying to lift it. No. There we go. Alright, and I'm going to try to lift it with the razor blade. Come on, you know you want to. There we go. It cut! Okay, this will be easy. I can just fold it up, fold it down, fold it up, and then it comes off. I don't need you. I'm gonna do the same thing to this one. And tripod leg is in my way. Let's see if I can do it at a really awkward angle. Go as close to the plastic as possible. Oh, I don't know if I got it that time. I'm gonna try one more time. I'm trying not to dig it into the board. I'm trying to push up against the transistor package. All right, I'm gonna try to lift it now. Poke. Okay, there you go. I mean, I practiced using the desoldering the SMD resistors, but I never got the hang of that, apparently. All right, and now I'm just gonna clean it up a little, I guess. Just replace the shitty solder with nice solder full of lead, baby. Put a little bit of flux. Oh, okay. So the way I remember it is that the single side of the transistor goes towards the leg that's closest to the center. So it's this pad and that pad have to be shorted. And it's the same with this side. So this one is more confusing because it's got the sideways one. But we're talking about the one that's closest. I don't know, just the one that's in line with this one. The package is in line this way. So we're gonna do the single side. The single pad is shorted to the pad that's closest to the center, and that is again on the 1.6 board. Although I took a look at the manual and I swear they look identical. I couldn't tell the difference between the two at this level or at this stage, but I guess if my remote doesn't work later, we'll know why. Get rid of that. All right. Nope, I missed putting the solder on there. All right, and then to short them, I'm gonna use this resistor lead since I'm not gonna need the actual lead part. So I got my resistor and I bent the lead and put a little bit of flux on it, and I'm just gonna solder this to short the two pads of where the MOSFET used to be. I should probably be using a general purpose soldering tip instead of this really fine tip for this, but let's try it. Oh, yeah. I mean, that'll work. Let's cut it out of the way and see if it's actually a good short. Oh, don't fly away, resistor. There we are. I can't cut it. I figured out how to check if you've shorted it or not. So you can see how this trace comes around to this pin. So basically, if this pin and the fuse or 0 ohm resistor are shorted, you've done the short, all right? And so then here, we've got the 0 ohm resistor or fuse or whatever, and then that pin, I can't tell, yeah, that one's going, so these are the two that we want to be shorted, right? So that and this, well, this is connected to this, so that's not shorted. But if we go like here and there, then you can tell these two are connected. So you test by going 0 ohm and that. If that's a short, you've done it right. It's not because I haven't put anything there. But between this one, it's the 0 ohm and this one. Shoot. And that's how you can tell you shorted it. Okay. All right. Need a little bit more solder. Still has a little break. Alright, and then we'll test if it has the same continuity. Go here. Hope you guys can hear that. But yeah, this shorts to here. Oh. Yeah, so we've shorted the correct ones. If you can't hear that, it was beeping. It doesn't matter. Alright, so last thing is gonna be to cut this power trace, which I'm hoping is still gonna be easy. So yeah, I just drew it in, and then I'm just gonna keep scoring. And I want to go below this trace right here. So I probably want to keep scoring slightly below. I don't know how long this is gonna take. Oops. Just gonna try to move with my finger. Q-tip to the rescue. Take a little bit of that. I may fast forward this because it's just me carefully going back and forth. Oops. If I end up cutting that resistor trace, I'm just gonna jumper it. I think I'm hearing fiberglass. Is this still in focus? Don't want to dig too deep. I just want to make sure that there's no shorts at all. I've gotten down to the fiberglass for sure. Let's see if I can get it to focus a little bit better. You can barely tell. I can see it really clearly, but let's bring it even closer. But yeah, that's a pretty definitive cut right there. I don't think there's any bridges across that. All right, so that's that. Cut the power trace. I'm gonna leave that at that. I'm just gonna clean up, and then we'll flip over to the other side. Okay, for the radio side of the board, I've got two main missions. I'm gonna tin the V2 pad. Let me zoom in a little bit. I'm gonna pre-tin 4 pads. It's gonna be the V2 pad, the channel 1 pad, the ground pad, and this V plus pad. And then after that, I'm gonna remove 3 power stage fets. these two on those like separate board thingies, and then this one right below the boot, whatever boot button or whatever by the SD card. So let's get started. Let's see here. And just make sure it's nice and blurry for us. Just kidding. All right. So let's just put some flux on the pads first. Let's see. Oh. V2, channel 1, ground, and V plus. All right. Should make it easier to tin them. Just come in and V2, channel plus or channel 1. Hopefully I'm not doing this wrong, because I really don't want to slow this down any more than I already have. Ground. Whoa, ground is gonna need more power. That's tinned enough. I'm gonna have to use a real soldering tip when I actually put those wires in. And V plus. There we go. So those are all pre-tinned or whatever. And now let's remove these MOSFETs or whatever. Oh well, I'm gonna try to keep it in the same orientation at least for y'all. All right. So I'm gonna get my diagonal cutters again. And I've got this little diagram. Nope, that's the wrong diagram. This little diagram. Not even a diagram, it's a picture. So I'm going to remove this middle fet. That middle fet is that middle fet. Right below the two diode looking things. So I'm going to come in with my trusty diagonal cutters. Like before. And just kind of align things. Feel that worked perfectly. Let's just use my finger as a fulcrum. Boop. All right, and then the ones on these two little boards. Let's see if I can try to keep it in focus. Let me get this light in here. All right. Oh shit. All right, so bring it in here. Boom. I'm just gonna do the other one too. Oh, okay. Getting good practice in now. All right. Lift. Try not to lift so up. I'm trying to rotate. Come on. Okay, it doesn't matter. This is simple enough. All right. Probably gonna need a real tip, so I'm gonna switch over to my trusty main squeeze tip. Where is it? I don't know which tip this is. Let me read it. I don't know. It's a conical tip, the medium-sized conical tip. Can't read the actual lettering since this is my oldest tip. And let me get some soldering on all those transistor pads. Well, okay. These kind of don't matter. Only one of them matters. And I'm pretty certain it's this one. Can you see what I'm doing? Let's move that out of the way. Boop. So it's the single pad. That's the one that we're going to use. But on these little separate boards, we're going to change. We're going to put another transistor on them. So we want flux everywhere. Alright. Let's get them cleaned up. I think I'm going to switch over to my higher leaded flux. It's the old-fashioned flux. It's not pure lead, but I think it's like 50-50. I'm not sure. Alright, so I'm going to try to clean them up by melting away that glue. Don't breathe. There's the glue. Right? And then let me focus on that. There we go. I think I got all the pieces of MOSFET legs off there. Actually, I'm going to do, well, let's see if I can get some more of that shady solder off. Man, I think my soldering iron is dying. I had it too high at temperature. Alright, so my phone stopped recording, so I wasn't able to record myself doing the same thing to this one. And I also tinned the one, tinned that singular pad, the lone pad of that MOSFET leg. But that's all there is to prepping the board on both sides.